Good morning, Jules Cruise Companion. Today we're going to go to Bethany Beyond Jordan. So we're going to catch a little bus down here from the visitor centre. Then we will walk around the site, see the old church and see the new baptismal area on the River Jordan. I wonder if because it's been raining, the river might be a little fuller. Wait and see. After a short shuttle ride down in through the military checkpoint, because this is an active military site, it is the border between Jordan and occupied Palestine, then we just group ready for our tour. Where the little shuttle bus drops you off, there's a souvenir shop that you come to after you've been down to Bethany, and a little snack shop should you require any refreshments. So we're just approaching the first little pit stop, and this will be the first glimpse of the Jordan River. So that's the first glimpse of the Jordan River. The Jordan River is the barrier, the border of Jordan and occupied Palestine, and that gold dome is the Greek Orthodox Church, which is actually on the east bank of the Jordan River. The guide is reminding us that there's actually two Bethanies, one in actual occupied Palestine, where Lazarus was raised from the dead, and this one where Jesus was baptised. That's why this one's called Bethany Beyond Jordan.
And we have, my friends, like 4 important evidence that prove the authenticity of our site. The first is the archaeology. The remains of the 5 churches built on the eastern bank of the Jordan between the 5th and 12th centuries AD. In fact, in the back below the last 2, we have the remains of 3 churches. The upper 2 below the sculpture were both basilicas, and both were linked through the staircase of the marble steps down to the cruciform baptistry, which used the waters of the Jordan for the baptism of people. Mentioned in some historical sources as the cruciform baptistry because it took the shape of the cross after the waters got through, formed the 4 large piers. On the right, we have the 2 original ones. The opposite 2 were partly restored to show the original shape of the monumental cruciform baptistry that used the waters for the baptism of people. And the 4 large piers, my friends, that form the cruciform baptistry, in fact, carried the second church. Church number 2 was built on top of the 4 large piers. It was named after the mantle of Jesus, Christ, because it was built on the exact spot where Jesus took off his garments and descended to the river to be baptized by John the Baptist. The second church, built on top of the 4 large piers, was named after the mantle of Jesus Christ. And yeah, after it got destroyed, the believers built the latest small chapel, the smallest worship house right below the small shelter. Okay, and again, that's the 5th one, number 5, and the latest small chapel. In the northwestern part of the site, we have the stone pillars of the first church, church number 1, built in the late 5th century. So 5 churches built by the believers, the same place where Jesus Christ was baptized. The waters of the Jordan were used to, baptize the pilgrims who came from all over the world. That's my.
The guide is saying that these 4 pillars form the cruciform baptistry. This is where the original Jordan River flowed. This is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th church. The first church is a little further to the north. So they believe that this area was the area that named after the mantle of Jesus, which is taking off his clothes, and where his clothes were. So his mantle was his clothes. So the guide is indicating that from the 6th century on, this was the site that people would come as pilgrims to worship where the site that Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist. The guide is also going on to say that the additional authenticity of this site is reflected in, for example, the map at St George of Madaba, because this site was within that mosaic of the religious sites for pilgrims. So he's saying archaeologically and spiritually, this is how they know that this was the space that Jesus was baptized. So like some sites in Jordan, it's only a small site, but because it's regulated, you have to come here just with the guide, and he keeps a head count on you and pushes you through from site to site. I think there's 4 or 5 parts of this site. The initial visitor centre, the first site of the Jordan River, the baptism site, and actually over into the Jordan River where they now baptise people. And there's a Greek Orthodox Church as well that's open. So it's only a small site, but it's highly regulated.
First church, number 1. Church number 1 was named after St. John the Baptist himself. It was built in the late 5th century, 494 AD, and was described by Theotokos, Greek historian who came from North Africa and described the Church of St. John the Baptist, saying that's located 5 miles north of the Dead Sea on the eastern bank of the Jordan River, adding that was raised up high in large chambers on account of the Jordan River overflows. It was the first and the biggest among the 5, and then after the first one got destroyed by an earthquake in the year 551, the believers used the same place to build the other 2 churches, which were both basilicas. On the right side, my friends, now you can see a small piece of the marble floor which belongs to the lower basilica. The lower was the 3rd, church number 3, 1st, 3rd, and 4th, the upper in front of us, which was mentioned as the Trinity Church, described by Epiphanes from Germany, who visited Jericho in the year 754. Side of the Jordan, there is a small port, including a big church built at the baptism site of Jesus and known as the Trinity Church. Fortunately, my friends, below, right in the middle of the nave of the church, we still have the original piece of mosaic, the only survived piece of mosaic, which has a small Byzantine motif. It's a little vase with 3 palm leaves, 3 palmed leaves, which symbolizes the Holy Trinity. Yeah, and there's also the altar. The square structure formed the altar of the church, and if leaves, 3 palmed leaves, that symbolizes the Trinity, which matches the description of Epiphanes from Germany. Epiphanes from Germany visited Jericho and described the Holy Trinity Church, saying that's located on the other side of the Jordan, built at the same place where Jesus himself was baptized by John the Baptist. There's something exceptional about this church, that it had, you could say, 2 openings or 2 doors, the entrance and the exit at the eastern end of the nave of the church. So the pilgrims would enter the church, then walk down the staircase to get baptized in the Jordan's water at the same place where Jesus himself was baptized by John. Usually we have the the apse of the church located at this eastern end of the nave of the church. Okay.
The other interesting thing he said about the Church of the Holy Trinity was that it actually had 2 doorways. One that pilgrims would enter the church, and one just past the apse where they would move through the church down to the water to be baptized. So that is a unique difference for this church, the Church of the Holy Trinity. This is the Greek Orthodox Church. The guide is just saying that this is local travertine, special stone. So it's standard iconography of the religious panels. So after a short visit to the Greek Orthodox Church, we'll just walk down the steps and we will see the new baptism site in the Jordan River. So what the believers can do is they can come here, walk down the stairs and dunk themselves into the Jordan River. Where the Jordan side of Bethany Beyond Jordan is a wooden, discreet, almost intimate space. On the other side of the river, in occupied Palestine, the display is a lot more solid, concrete, gaudy, overbearing for such a sacred, potentially religious site. So it's a good 200-300 metres from where those first 4 or 5 churches were, where the baptism site, the original baptism site was. And over the last 1,000 years, the flow of the Jordan River has changed to where it is today. It's not uncommon for people to bring an empty container and fill it with some water to take home. I don't know how legal that is, especially for Australia with the biosecurity laws. And there is also a font where people often baptise themselves. Don't know if you can see in the Ethiopian guy's hand, there's a bottle of Manky water. There it is. He's taken his Manky water home with him. Okay. So this is Julie Jules' cruise companion saying, come on down, Jordan is open. Come and see these smaller sites. This is Bethany Beyond Jordan. It's included in the Jordan Pass if you pay the additional 8JD. I think it's a little more if you pay at the gate. Come on down, Jordan is open. Lots of fun and interesting things to see, lots of history. Now that the world has started to travel again, stay safe and happy travels.